I'll tell you, man, evolution, human evolution is a serious business, and it's a war, and it is not an easy business to tackle, especially with those who resist change, evolution, resist so many things, resist indicators. And I've suffered so much the last 49 years that finally, when I figure out where all the suffering came from, then, of course, when I've ended my own suffering without rest and peace, I want to go and help the world end their suffering without rest and peace. And so obviously what I'm doing in my world is very honorable, no different than those who believe that what they're doing in their world, as far as ending people suffering through their ways, is extremely honorable on their end. And who's to say if their way or my way is a better way? It doesn't even matter. You just put out your way of ending people suffering without killing them and let the system decide. What's the system? The system of peers and the system of authority. And people will have conversations about it. And it must be done in a civilized way so we can evolve as a human race. That's the whole point of the human race, is to evolve. But for us to go from one evolution to another, there must be a type of society, a platform, a universal theme that links us all together. And that's, the order and the traditions and the holidays and all the different religions. And I'll tell you, I would not want to be any leader of any society trying to control its children, because it's fucking difficult. It's so difficult. It is so difficult. I don't even say dangerous, because yeah, everything is dangerous whenever you introduce change, but it's a lot to juggle when you're dealing with so many different people and their thoughts and beliefs and cultures and deficiencies. And I don't love it, but then here's the thing. I'm trying to save myself, which I have already. I've been brought here to America for a reason. Maybe the reason that I was brought here may have changed the last, say, 20 years. Maybe there was a specific intention. In the last 7 years, I redirected the intention, because I know if I hadn't figured out my protocol and evolved it, I would end up already dead or divorced, or who the hell knows? Okay, if I hadn't gone down the rabbit hole of the Jilly Juice world. All right. And so if those in the conspiracy will remember, thanks for the memories. What is Bob Hope? Thanks for the memories. What is it? Bob Hope. Thanks for the memories. Oh shit, what is her name? Give me 1 second. Oh yeah. Bob Hope and Henry Kissinger. Oh, they don't even bring that up. Oh yeah. Taylor Bryce. Thanks for the memories. Truth has set me free. The memoirs of Bob Hope's and Henry Kissinger's mind control slave used as presidential sex toy and personal mind file computer. Okay, if you've heard those YouTube videos, maybe way back when, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and she was used as a mind file. She was given so much information, gone through all of her MK Ultra stuff. So she held so much information that then she was able to pass on different messages to different leaders of the world through her acting like a sex toy for all the different presidents. And that's how you can get information across without flagging anyone, is you use someone like her or anyone else that that looks inconspicuous or is in another, through the through the prostitutes and through, whoever, waiters and waitresses passing notes, right? But she had a whole bunch of information that she held within her through all the different MK Ultra programming. And so I was given so much information just being raised with what I was doing, right? And then, of course, everything that I've been through in my life. And of course, I had to release those demons. So if I hadn't done the J world type of stuff, right? If I hadn't released the demons and ate food and all that stuff, then whatever I knew at the time back in 2016, it would have been I would have been ballooning up, dealt with probably obesity and who knows what else, probably been divorced because I was just so miserable when you think about it, trying to figure out stuff. And I would have never really been able to bring any kind of knowledge to the evolution of our society because I was still heavily in the conspiracy world, but I wouldn't be able to take it further. Okay, I would have stopped at a certain point and then died. Okay, but given that I evolved with Jilly Juice World, now I see the bigger picture because it was still 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. It was still 4 years away from the aggressive changes that happened in 2019, 2020. Okay, so, and so that's the thing. So once I released those demons of all that excessive, crazy trauma programming that was just throughout my whole life, and I got to the root of just all the conspiracy stuff, my own background, and all of that, and then I see what the World Economic Forum is trying to do. Then I see what all the balancing of the hormones and then the gender shit. I mean, you have a characterization of it, but it doesn't mean that your characterization of what's going on as far as gender and hormones and all that is actually the intention. It's just how you see it from your point of view. But I remember how miserable I was for many years dealing with the PMS because I had too much estrogen. That was my issue. That's why my PMS was so insane. But I was hot. That's the curse. When I had so much estrogen, I was fucking hot. So is Cindy Crawford. So is all these models way back when in the 90s. Then as they get older, and they're maybe 10 years older than me, right? They're looking a little bit more masculine. Why does the women who are getting older looking more masculine as they get older? They're looking more handsome, right? I've seen people characterize older women, especially in Hollywood, who've gone through one extreme program to another, which is really high estrogen at the younger age, and then as they get older and deteriorate, then that estrogen melts away and the testosterone's coming up. And so they look like handsome women. I mean, they're still women because they have vaginas and boobs, but they're taking on the masculine features because the estrogen programming was releasing. And so my curse was too much fucking estrogen for many years. And I remember trying to look for stuff to balance out the estrogen because I would Google, well, why do I have such PMS? Oh, because you have too much estrogen. So I'm taking the progesterone cream and rubbing it on my hands and doing all these different things that are recommended by different people, and it kept fucking me up. And so now finally, when then you're hearing the system talk about how it's going to be geared towards a more female society. Okay, why? Because women have it easier to be more flexible, and some women can take on masculine characteristics and still be a woman. Because I was a bit of a tomboy too. I was fighting the masculine and feminine in me for many years. But there are some men that are so manly that for them to even think about taking on estrogen would be like blasphemy, because then they would look at all the LGBTQ community, which is basically the balancing force between male and female. Then you have all the different sexual orientations and sexuality in between. And then what I'm introducing, okay, on top of all the male, the female, the extreme genders, gender roles, and then all the LGBTQ stuff, and I'm saying, well, eventually, maybe down the road, if you decide to release a demon, you won't be as sexual, taking on any specific identity. That you're able to revert back to your masculine and your feminine without being too much on either end. And that's why I take pictures of myself. So you see, okay, that, I mean, some people say I look very masculine. I don't know. But I mean, I know I probably have characteristics or even mannerisms that might be a bit more rougher than some women. But there's a lot of women out there who are extremely feminine. They look beautiful and they'll fight like a fucking dude. They'll kick your butt. There's women out here that are gorgeous out here, but they will throw down like a dude. Okay? So you see there's some strong females here in Ohio. So that's the whole masculine and feminine. But then again, remember, too much on either end. Too much on either end, then it just destroys you. When you're tapping in or trying to bring up so much on either side, that's when the immune system starts breaking down. Again, I'm using my own coffee cup from yesterday. And so that's why I posted that reel, that Facebook reel, to show you now the whole Georgia Guidestones, guiding reproduction carefully. And so I'm taking it from the micro, which is all the infection. And you're seeing that during climate change, infection is coming up faster for a lot of people. They can't get ahead of it, and it either turns into a cancer disease, chronic illness, or died suddenly, or potentially even trigger the sexual reproduction, and potentially they could make a family, have a kid. But what's happening is as people's hormones are evening out because of how the system is adjusting the climate, and you could say whatever's in the food and the water and the air, okay, fine. But as you do balance out both the masculine and the feminine, and I see it within myself, I'm not dropping any eggs. I haven't dropped one since probably towards the end of last summer. My stuff still works. Okay? I mean, it doesn't work for a long ass time, but it works for a very brief amount of time. All right? And so I'm balancing out the masculine and the feminine, then I'm not then fertile. I'm not now being used as a brood mare. I'm not being used as a farm animal. Now I'm actually the human that was actually intended before someone used humans as slaves, as brood mares, as farm assets, slaves. So you have to look at now, if you can, the developing of families on such a level that's been going on for so many years. That's so different than somebody going and breeding puppies, breeding cows, breeding kittens, and selling them. How is what somebody's doing with breeding animals over there in some breeding farm different than what you're doing in your community, in your little enclave, whether it's, in Silicon Valley or Ohio? And everyone's having children. And they're getting together with all their children. And then when the children gets trained in something, no different than that animal getting trained to be either an emotional support animal or some working animal or somebody's pet, right? Somebody's pet. How is what you're doing with your kids, farming them out and selling them on the open market to either a husband or a wife or a company or a country? Just like when I'm watching, again, Selling Sunset, and these hot chicks that are girlfriends of these really rich men, and you know what they were bred for? He's like, oh yeah, here's my girlfriend, my 5th girlfriend in 1 year. That's Mr. Oppenheim. I'm telling you, watch Selling Sunset, man. That's some interesting lifestyle. And you see what these women were bred for. Yeah, selling houses, looking the image, and they deal with their own health issues. They have to. They're going for operations or getting Botox or getting boob jobs. They weigh next to nothing. Or they're like, the sidekick, the piece, the arm candy, until she's used up and then thrown away until he gets bored of her, and then he'll change her out for somebody else. That's human farming. Do you really want your daughters and your sons to be used like that? To be used as some slave to somebody else, whether it's a husband, wife, or some company that just doesn't care that you'll be easily replaced by somebody else? The system is going in such a different direction. But you have to see that that's what's going on. You have been used as a freaking farm animal, a human farm animal. just breeding exponentially. And the indicators are infection, cancer, disease. And so now we have to put a very different spin on life, a very different way of looking at life. What does life actually mean now? See, right now, life means that, oh yeah, you go to parties and birthday parties and you buy shit for your grandchildren and you get your kid in school and they do so great and now you're social capital for grandma and mom and whoever. And then you die after maybe you potentially go to a nice company if that company keeps you, if they don't go and change you out for somebody else or downsize or completely go out of business. Okay, so the world's changing. The meanings of life is changing, completely changing. And so, so I was watching, I was watching the Big Lebowski, and I never really got into it. And it's all about nihilism and no meaning to stuff and all that. And somebody said, I think Andrew Earl said that nihilism is no different than believing in Christianity fundamentalism, because it's just completely the opposite. Letting go of morals, letting go of religious morals and values and all that other stuff. And so then they really life is empty and meaningless. And that's one of the tenets when I went to Landmark Education way back in the 1990s, and they were saying life is empty and meaningless, or that was one of the concepts that they were introducing to us, is that we put the meaning to what life is. And that's true, because meaning to life will always change, and massive meanings to life will change, and that's painful. Okay, because then first you'd have to really, that's painful, especially when you believe you should die someday. Because when you have a schedule of events, let's say you're 25 or 30, and you have a schedule of events of things that have to happen a certain way, and then you find out that may be cut short, or not even be able to exist at all in the future, or something will change, and you believe you should die someday, then there goes your whole life. Oh, my nose. God. Okay, and there goes your whole life to you. Now, instead of potentially living to be 75 and 80 and having 2.5 kids and a nice house and a secure job, now you're like, holy crap, are we going to have another lockdown? Or are we going to have another thing going on? Oh, wow, there's war in the Middle East. Is my kid's future secure? My grandkids' future secure? I mean, there's so much insecurity, food insecurity, job insecurity, money insecurity, future insecurity. And if you plan to die someday, man, that fucking sucks. How could you possibly even think about changing the meaning of life? What does that even mean? That's why my information is so fucking important. So you have something to hope for. Okay? Because you know that the old life is going to the wayside. Even the meanings of genders and people's roles and all that stuff. I mean, it's not totally going to the wayside. You're still going to have your males and females, whatever, binary or non-binary. You can have a choice. Identify with whatever you want. But you're going to see so much diversity. And that's going to come quicker than you think. And so while your life is being challenged by this diversity and the changes, do you even have hope that you can still sort of maintain some semblance of normalcy and still be able to live and not die before you realize all your potential, if that's still where you want to go? That's why my information is so important, that you don't have to be so diverse like those that fall in love with tree bark and shit because they're taking all their tree bark extract. You don't have to end up like those who are extremely one side or the other. You just got to realize that's what's going to happen over there, but you have a chance to balance everything out. And as far as having kids in the future by 2050, it's not going to fucking happen unless you're part of those that are birthing people, because they told you there's going to be infertility in the future. They're not trying to breed extreme hormonal genders on either end. Okay? The climate's already changing. There's so much fertility. Too much fertility equals infertility. And then all these different remedies and prescription drugs and herbal concoctions in the holistic world has programmed antibodies to then disable different parts of your immune system. Because why is that? Because people don't want to deal with releasing the demons and balancing their hormones and eating and doing and changing the way they do things. But why was fertility so much back then with such extreme sides? Because that was the beginning of extreme gender roles. That was back in the 1920s and 30s, right? The hot chicks back in the 1930s, 40s, remember? The old Hollywood, classic Hollywood, and then all the dying and reproducing. And so when you had the extreme genders, like, Cary Grant, so hot, like James Dean, so hot, like who else? What's the other dude? Clark Gable, so fucking hot. I mean, the men back in the 1920s, 30s, 40s, back in old Hollywood, Gone with the Wind, even before that, so hot. So were the 1960s men, 50s and 60s. Men were so hot, women were so hot, right? Then they started reproducing. And then all of a sudden the distribution of hormones were were not as extreme or equal, and they started merging together. And then and so there was a lot of aggressive males back in old Hollywood, as well as females, and they had their own drug addictions and issues. Okay? And so those were the experiments, and then of course then you had the 50s and the 60s and the 70s and the 80s, the 90s, 2000s, and now you have people like Cher and Sonny Bono, right, and Chastity, is that his name, her name, I forget, and then now you have Hollywood children that are balancing both sides out. Because you're going to have to balance out the masculine and the feminine, because too much testosterone, you'll die from that. Not enough testosterone, you'll die from that. Too much estrogen will be miserable and die from that. Not enough. And so then you have to balance out both sides. Because again, you see the hot women when they're younger, and then they become handsome, elderly women. And so I'm 50 years old, and look at my face. I'm still holding on to characteristics not so extreme like I was back in 1994, but I'm still relatively balanced. I'm about 50 years old. You're not seeing my life force being drained away. It's still balanced, and it's still things work. It's not like, I just don't want to be fucked to death. I don't care occasionally, but I don't want to be screwed to death. I'm not going to have a bunch of children. But you see, I'm still doing okay, and I'm 50 years old, and I've gone through so much of the releasing the demons and dealing with all the disease that was in me from so many years and genetic lines, okay? So that's why I'm showing you pictures of my face and even doing the Facebook Live, so you understand that when you finally do balance out the masculine and the feminine, I'm not going to look so androgynous. I still look female. And men can look relatively male. Okay? If they add a little more estrogen, how much to, who knows? They're going to have to release, I don't know. We'll see with John. Okay? We'll see what happens with John, because John's a man's man. John's a man. Okay? And how is he going to figure all that, balance out the masculine and feminine? And so that's what the future is. And you don't have to look like anything so weird, whatever that means to you. It's not as scary as people think it is, but I'm telling you, people are fucking scared. And they're yelling at me. I'm like, dude, they've been telling you this. They've been saying it's going to be a woman's world in the future. Why is that? Because women are more flexible. They can take on male characteristics. Testosterone without going crazy. Right? Men have a hard time with figuring out what that even fucking means to them. They think you're going to turn gay or something. Especially men's men. Some men are extremely sensitive, and that's fine, and they look like a men. But yeah, they don't like all the fucking jabbing of other men. You just leave them alone. If you think they feel, I tell you, men do some numbers on each other. And so I said, right now, we seriously need to evolve as a human race, because we have been farmed out like animals for centuries. And so I want to evolve as a human race. Okay? Because the meaning of life changes all the time. So when I was watching The Big Lebowski and nihilism and all that stuff, I said the fact that you are speaking says that life does have meaning. Okay? And so what kind of meaning are you going to put on your life today? Well, you do whatever you want, so as long as within the law, the confines of the law. But realize that there are other people out there, they're going to take their sexuality to an extreme. They're going to take their identity to an extreme. If they feel something, okay, about inanimate objects or whatever, hey, as long as it's legal and it's not hurting anybody and it's not, not hurting anybody or offending somebody because you're doing it out in public, it's not going to be something that will be a violation of a law of indecent exposure, then hey, whatever. I don't care, because I'm in control of my own immune system. I may not have those types of influences of wanting to hang out with inanimate objects and have sex with them, but if you do, hey, that's fine. And so that's why I said, so I'm thinking that even with the way I have, I don't say attacked, but focused on the sexuality and the fornication and using inanimate objects in you, like what some women do with each other, with dildos and all that stuff. Some men who are very extreme have taken offense to that, because there are men that do that too as well when they're having sex with their females or males. And I'm saying at some point we're going to rise above the sexuality, where that's not going to be the thing, that's not going to be the first thing on the menu, is having children and having extreme sexual interaction with whoever, hunting women, hunting men, to have that sexual experience. That we actually are going to evolve from that as a human race, and you're not going to be all about your baser level instincts of that. Okay, not marrying off your daughters and sons to be what? To be going into a war of whatever, to be screwed out of existence. Okay? So the fact that you are speaking says that life does have meaning. Life will always have some kind of universal platform, and then there must be a meaning given to you to keep you within the parameters of control. But there also must be room for a personal definition of life for the greater good of the world. So that way you feel like you get the freedom to develop your own personal meaning, but then you still have to attach yourself to a society that has their own meaning. But there still must be some continuous line of connectivity of the respect for life and innovation and evolution without being a destroyer of it. And that's why we're in wars, because there are destroyers of evolution out there that have no problem just destroying someone because they are different or attacking them. And that's what I experienced today. And I allowed the person to come back on because he was kind of annoying to me in the last couple of years because of what I was going through as far as evolution. But I still kept giving that person a chance, because maybe, they have a chance to evolve, maybe not. But this last couple days, I think I crossed any kind of tolerance in his world. And I understand that some people, they can only go as far as, holy shit, the whole gender stuff and the male and the estrogen and the testosterone, they can't get past that. And I get it. Some people, that's the line where they draw. They can evolve up to a certain point, and right there, the whole testosterone estrogen wars is where they draw the line. And I completely respect that. I can't have them attacking me, but that's how people express themselves when they don't understand or want to understand. And I'm not making anyone understand. It's okay. Okay, so I don't really hold it against them. But people will try to destroy evolution. That's why we're in a great reset, because there are people, a lot of people like him. There's so many. He's not the only one. Okay. There's many men and women that are like him that will destroy any kind of evolution because they don't want to change, because their life is going to be short. They're not doing the J world stuff. They won't. And so when they see their life is short, they don't want to have any kind of changes or be faced with that, because then now what is their life? They're not going to meet all the different milestones. And it's even questionable if their kids meet those milestones in this climate change. And that's scary. That's fucking scary. Oh, I understand. Believe me, I understand how scary it is. I mean, I've been very angry for many years until I figured out what was going on. And there's nothing you can do to change it. It's been going on for thousands of years. They have been doing these great resets for thousands of years. This is not new. Okay? Your ancestors went through this. The fact that you're alive gave you a chance to figure out how to survive this next evolution. But if you shit on evolution, you'll end up like your ancestors, suffering. Okay? Because of if life does not have meaning to you or it is meaningless, then it's worthless. You only value life until the meaning you give it runs out on you. But what do you live for? Who do you live for? To live, there must be meaning. Life is to live for yourself so you can live with others. And then life has value. And it has meaning that could also change, and it would still have value. But you are life. Without you, there is no life, only death. Imagine grandma and grandpa adopting this notion. She could save herself. And so, without any of you, if you all say, well, my life is meaningless, and you all then universally just say, okay, my life is meaningless and I'm okay with dying right now, we would have nobody. There'd be nobody. So that's the thing. Somebody has to value life and be able to evolve and change the meaning of life so you can carry on the human race and evolve it. And so what is nihilism? It's a rejection of all religious and moral principles and the belief that life is meaningless. They condemn the show for cynicism and nihilism. But the opposite of that is fundamental. Okay? Meanings can always change. And you don't have to be religious and moral. What does that mean? It's different for everybody. And so, all right. So that's that, and then I'm gonna go down here. And so, yeah, I posted that picture of the staph infection, human infection, then the family. And after the family, then it was the sudden cardiac arrest that died suddenly. Okay? So you saw how the connection of bacteria and families and cultures and petri dishes of your community. Okay? Then when it comes too much, when it comes to numerous, when your petri dish is so much of the bacteria that all replicate and fornicate with each other, and there's no more resources left to keep feeding all of that replication, then that petri dish then dies. There's nothing, everything dies. There's nothing left to eat. They can't eat the petri dish unless you keep putting food into the petri dish to then cause in more replication. Okay? So you have to see that, yes, when we have so much cancer and disease and bacteria, as far as infection and disease and all that, that is the start of family. And then what people do, they go and attack it, right? They go and use remedies or surgery because it's uncomfortable. Well, why is it? Because you've disabled your immune system well, you're not disabled. You resisted your immune system from having it leave the body. And then what you do when you attack infection in your body, you cause then new cultures, new families, offspring. That's the danger of using remedies, of antibiotics, topicals, pushing the demon back in the body, so to speak. So then it replicates again and becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. All right. So the lyrics of the song. Now, when I posted that kangaroo video, and I'm like to my husband, I'm strangely attracted to this kangaroo, not because I want to have sex with it, because it's a masculine energy. And that kangaroo was like full testosterone. But it was that music that was so attractive. It brought up the masculine in me. It brought up the feminine and masculine in me. And I'm just like, whoa. I just keep watching that video, watching that kangaroo, like, what the fuck? And it was scary, but kind of attractive, but scary. And I'm like, okay, if I'm watching this video a lot, and I'm like, okay, it's plucking my hormones in such a weird way. And Facebook I'll tell you, Facebook and all the different algorithms, frequencies. Well, I figured, okay, I'm going to use that with this compilation of photos. So you see now the succession of bacteria and infection all the way to then sudden cardiac arrest. And if you don't release those demons, like I have, the way I have in my book, and eating food, that's where people end up. That's the number one killer. When people say, oh, die of cancer, okay, they die of cancer. Okay, so what happened at the end? So you have growth, but what happened at the end? Oh, they stopped breathing. Was there a mini heart attack? Was there a mini stroke? But if you have a predominant disease that you're fighting that, and you die in that predominant disease, then that's what they say you died from. But then there is sudden cardiac arrest. You're walking down the street. You're not diagnosed with anything, and all of a sudden you fall over. Well, then that's sudden cardiac arrest. When you're on the field, sudden cardiac arrest. When you're in a pool or in a hot tub, you drown. Well, what caused you to drown? Well, it could be sudden cardiac arrest or an aneurysm or a stroke. something happened suddenly and it caused you not to be able to move and help yourself out of that situation. When you have a weak respiratory system and you have so much of the mucus that's trying to come out, but you have atrophied your release process, your coughing and your sneezing process, and blowing your nose, people who are weak, they drown in their own mucus. It could be overnight. Okay? And so so that's what happens when you have so much infection that's not allowed to leave the body. And people hold on to infection. So when you have guys and girls with big middles, like a big belly, well, that means that down there is blocked up. They're not allowed to. Well, they weren't releasing enough of the excessive diversity, and then of course they're in pain all the time, right? Because the body's trying to push it out. But different parts of their body are disabled because they've had infection before, and they don't want to feel it, so they don't cough, sneeze, or blow their nose up here, and so everything is pushed down there, and that's where you get the dad bods. The guys are strong up here, and they're strong down there, but they have a middle, and that middle is gaining so much diversity. And so I noticed during the times when the climate changes and I'm like all puffy, or I go to like a party like I did and have the 3 shots of alcohol causing them the spirits to fornicate and become so numerous, and then be in around so many people because I'm taking in microbes that are causing fornication and excessive replication and reproduction, I become bigger and bigger and bigger. I get bloated. My face gets bloated, my belly gets bloated, my boobs get bloated, my butt gets, everything gets bloated. I grow, and my pants don't fit as nicely, and so then when after I release the demons, cough, sneeze, and blow my nose, release the demons and sleep, then I'm down to relative equilibrium. I'm not so huge. You see pictures of me where I look swollen during and before crazy, release process. Maybe within the last couple days. Yesterday, oh my gosh, I had a few hives yesterday. So hives is growth. Not a big thing, not a big deal because I released the demons. But yesterday in the afternoon, I spoke for 3 hours and 50 minutes yesterday. It didn't even seem like that because I had so much energy and I barely even ate. When I did eat afterwards, it was like 5 o'clock. So I actually listened to my video afterwards. So I'm doing the talking. And then I'm listening to the video afterwards. That was 8 hours. When you think about it, 8 hours. I was sitting here and talking and listening and typing during that time because you saw me posting stuff in between. And then I'm done by 5 o'clock. Like I just worked a full day. Then I go and eat, my chicken and whatever that I made over the weekend. I only eat a little bit. I didn't even eat the oatmeal. Remember I was eating so much oatmeal every single day, oatmeal. And I didn't feel like eating oatmeal yesterday. It's so weird what the body craves. And there's a reason why the body craves it, because it needs those nutrients. That's why when you crave something, you better fucking eat it. Because there's no food that's poison. You're like, oh, you gotta have self-control. If your body craves sugar, you have to say, no, you can't. People are like, get this in. Because here's the thing. I get it when someone has a closed immune system and they have addictions per se. So yeah, maybe they're really obese. And they're like, I gotta stay away from sugar. Well, you see that right now with people who are obese. And they're like, well, now with the economy and everything, and the economy is causing me to spend less on food so I can have more doing this. Well, I'm losing weight. But you know where that's going to end up? Because the train will leave the station. That's why those who are obese still need to eat the sugar and the salt in their food and the carbs, and they have to pull out the freaking programming. Because all those families in their body are multiplying exponentially. That's obesity. When you have an overpopulation in one part of town where there is no life regulation, there's no birth regulation, there's no reproduction regulation, that side of town, and that side of town is so crowded, that's obesity, because you have 69 trillion microbes, and then they all go to their respective areas, and they have their own little families. And now you have so much diversity of families in your body that, yes, still need to be fed. Or else they will keep procreating because of insurance, right? They have to have an insurance policy in their body to keep that genetic line going in the body. And so that's why people get bigger and bigger when they even starve themselves, when they actually stay away from food until the body starts eating itself, the Ouroboros. And so that's why you have to understand my information of pulling out the programming, so that way you pull out the colonies that are causing the messages to say, oh, go breed, go breed, go breed. Because that's what our mRNA is telling the body to go breed antibodies, to go breed excessive fat cells, to go breed even antibodies that might even turn your hormones off or on and leave the switch on or leave the switch off. That's diabetes, when you can't produce insulin because you have so much aggressive diversity, and some of that diversity is fucking with your hormones. No different when the kids go out there and they go mess with buildings, they turn the water on. I've done that before when I was a kid, doing stupid shit, flooding somebody's lawn out. That was not really nice of me, but we did stupid shit as kids. Okay? And or putting toilet paper in the trees. Or some of these kids now, they, steal copper from places, or they take stuff from cars. Okay? And so these kids out there that are doing stupid shit because no one is regulating them, you have kids in your body that are doing stupid shit and turning your hormones on and off because they can. No one's regulating them. No one's giving them a purpose. So what do? They go and mess with the infrastructure. No different than these roving kids that go and mess with the infrastructure. And so that's why you have to release the demons. But that's the thing. You have been farmed like animals and been experimented on for so many years. Now it's time to set humans free. But now you have to release the demons out of your body and go through that process. And it's fucking painful. All right, so anyway, that Facebook reel from the micro to the macro, I chose this music because it is extremely addicting to listen to. It brings up the masculine in me, and it's a perfect, attractive piece to give you that information. What information? Family happens at the micro level, that's called infection. Then you see large families or even small families out there. The system can call that infection. Remember, don't be not a cancer on this earth. Leave room for nature, leave room for nature. That's part of the Georgia Guidestones. And then there is a sudden cardiac arrest, death from cancer and disease. Too many families clog up the system if not being released properly, whatever that means, right? War, aggressive reproduction, porn, aggressive sexuality. That's why they want to control reproduction carefully, or you have so many stray people and animals clogging up the system, causing sudden cardiac arrest. So can you imagine when you have so many animals in a shelter, they can't take in any more animals. They have to start releasing them and adopting them out. The people here are breeding them over here and then being let loose, or someone's selling them and the people are like, well, I don't want this animal, so they give it to the shelter. Shelter has no more room. They have to keep building bigger buildings or adding on to the shelter or giving them away to other, shelters to go and do stuff. So when you imagine how many humans are being bred and they don't have a purpose and no one, they don't know what to do with themselves. And so what do? They go fuck up society, take shit, steal stuff, cause, wars and all this other shit. And so then they stop the system from working, clogging up the system. Then sudden cardiac arrest. That shelter now is like having to figure out they can't take in more and they're not releasing. So what do? Those animals and those humans are just using up space. Okay? And that's no different than with humans. When you have so many humans in one little area, and that area then there's no more food to be had because they're eating everything around and using up so many resources, then that infrastructure is so used up, and then it stops. The wheels stop turning. Sudden cardiac arrest. That's what happens in humans when they have too much family in their body and it's not being released. Okay, so now you see the connection of infection, cancer, large families, and friendly gatherings, and sudden cardiac arrest. Everything is connected. So the lyrics actually surprised me. It says, "You're such a fucking whore." I'm like, oh my God. But I'm like, you know what? I'm not calling anyone specific in those reels a whore, but that's the thing, is all the fornication that happens at the micro level and the macro level. That's sexuality at the micro level and macro level. And so that was such a weird thing. That was the lyrics. Because again, that kangaroo reel did not even say you're such a fucking whore. But that, when I found that on the Facebook Reels music, and I'm like, ooh, this is the music that was on the kangaroo thing. I want to use it. And it didn't go through the whole thing. So I'm like, okay, this is the music. So when I actually put it to those photos, I'm like, and I hear it, I'm like, holy shit. I was offended for a minute. But then that's what grabs you. Is what, when you're offended, then you have to also do a disclaimer. Well, I'm not insulting anyone specific, but that's what I'm saying. Those microbes are whores. Fucking, right? Making infection, replicating. And then you see what goes on in the population. People are screwing each other left and right, having babies and disease and cancers, and then dying suddenly. So now that we finally, Facebook and and all the social media, even YouTube, because YouTube is still taking down some of my old videos, not all of them, but some of them that have things that I've said that were, medical misinformation somewhere embedded inside the video. So they're watching out all of my videos and they're listening to every single word that I'm saying. Okay? And so they're going through their own cleanup process because I've finally evolved. I get everything now. And so when you go through that evolution, especially with YouTube, people will look at the videos from like 3 years ago and think that's my current thought process. No different than when you go back to my old page, they think that's my current, no. My old page is my old page. That's like a dead body. It doesn't really exist. It's there. You can look at it. But now since last November, so about a year, I've had this profile for about a year. It hasn't changed too much. Okay, maybe I'm still thinking about the whole V stuff, whatever, and maybe still mischaracterizing it. But I'm not saying it in so many words. Maybe I have, maybe I haven't. So there might be some videos that might say stuff. However, what you want to look, if you're new coming on to my Facebook page, just look within the last week. Okay? Or the last 2 weeks at the videos. Anything beyond that, I don't know. I might have said some stuff that would confirm all your conspiracy shit. But the last evolution in my world happened so quickly that even my book here, I still keep things relatively neutral, and I say it purposely. I keep things relatively neutral in here. However, I was angry in this book, but I'm not angry anymore. I really am not. I have no issue with what the government's doing. I have no issue with what my parents were doing at the time. I have no issue. It's just coming to terms with all of that. And that's a lengthy process, and it's like truth happens in 3 stages. First, it's ridiculed and laughed at. Second, it's violently opposed. Third, it's accepted as self-evident. And that's by Arthur Schopenhauer. The truth happens and goes through 3 different stages. And some people are still stuck in the violently opposed. Eventually, it'll become self-evident if they even survive that process. But right now, people are laughing at what's going on in this world, or they're violently opposing it. And you see all the activists out there violently opposing the changes that are going on. Okay? But I have evolved even from this book since this was just last year? It's just been about a year. Yeah, because I put this book out when my dog was dying. I was writing this book while my dog was dying. Can you imagine dealing with that, and with the trolls, and with everybody else, and with my husband going like, what the fuck's going on? I'll tell you, man, when you've suffered, you will have the capacity to juggle and multitask. But you don't want to do that too much because that spreads yourself too thin. Okay? And so anyways, so I was going off on a tangent there, but the reason I'm talking about YouTube and community standards is because back then in 2017, I didn't deserve to be attacked. Yeah, Facebook had to needed to regulate me, and so did the government. The OAG, and then the Federal Trade Commission. Once the OAG figured out what was going on, it wasn't like I was doing anything wrong. It was how I was advertising the information. Okay? That was it. That was the crux of it. So I said nothing wrong. I can have my opinions. People recommend shit all the time. You see all over Facebook in these diet suddenly groups and these holistic groups. Don't go to a doctor. Don't see them. I don't trust the white lab coats. Watch out for this. Da, 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 right? Making their accusations and Facebook lets them say whatever they say, right? They're not taking them down. They're not saying, oh God, But I was attacked, and it was not deserved. Because my issue, the problems was between me and my moderators, and that was it, between me and my moderators and me and the government. And so all the articles and all the YouTube videos and all of the groups that were attacking me was undeserved. It was wrong on their end because they didn't know the full story. They made assumptions. They jumped into the middle. Now, I benefited from that, yes. So when you think about hindsight, it's 2020. If I hadn't been attacked, would I have gone to this point? So now you're looking at what's going on in the Middle East. Now you look at what's going on all over the world with all the different wars. We wouldn't get to the evolution if it wasn't for the war. We wouldn't get to evolution if we didn't go and regulate those who are extremists. We wouldn't get to the evolution if it wasn't for all the human activity of offense, defense, offense, defense, offense, defense, offense, defense on a continuous fucking basis. Okay? And so I could say then, so on my end, I didn't deserve to be attacked, and it was wrong of you guys to do that, but I did benefit from it. And so you could say, oh, it's wrong for Hamas to attack Israel. No, they do what they did. And is it wrong for Israel to go and retaliate so good? No, they have to do what they have to do. Because eventually evolution is going to come out of that. But you have to watch the war go through. It's agonizing. Remember, watching me go through all of that? It was fucking agonizing. It was so agonizing. I was suffering. But through that suffering, I was developing innovation. And I'll tell you, man, it wasn't fun. I would never want to revisit that again. And I won't. There's no reason to. But that's how we get to evolution, is that somebody attacks somebody. The conversation is going. People do take their shit to extreme. That's why the system has to regulate those. When you're in a conversation of evolution and change and discussing ideas, people take it so personally and they do stupid shit. That's why you have a surveillance society, because you're going to see stuff and you're going to hear stuff that is going to conflict with everything you ever known. And some people take that shit to extreme. And so that's why you have 1984. That's why you have George Orwell, 1984, because evolution requires surveillance. People are stupid out there. Not everybody, but and I had someone completely just let loose on me. Imagine if I was right in their face. Okay, imagine I was right in their presence, what they would do if they're given the chance. That's what you're dealing with when it comes to evolution and extremism. And too much femininity and too much testosterone on either end causes disease. That's why they want to balance out the hormones, right? And so it's up to the government to regulate me. It's up to Facebook community standards to regulate me. But it's not up to my peers to regulate me. But that was the growing pains back then. They didn't have all the protective measures. Facebook has evolved. And we all got to be the guinea pigs. All of us in the West. The J World too. The group. The trolls. All the articles. The influencers. Even those. Even by back, on YouTube. Even some of those bullies on YouTube are being regulated by their own peers. They're getting clapped back because of what they've posted, not only about me, but about other people. Just like when back in 1998, AOL, people were like, oh, wow, I could say whatever the hell I want. And I was saying whatever the hell I want to whoever when I was on AOL. And people are like, oh, watch out, you're going to be tossed out if you don't stop your aggressive, whatever. And I was really aggressive back then, even 1998. No different than those on the YouTube channel so aggressive against me? Hey, they say whatever they want because they have the mainstream on their side. They're on the side of right. And so they let loose. No different than what I did back in 1998. So, hey, karma is a bitch, right? And then the system has to regulate. Okay? And so I don't think I deserve to be attacked, but that's part of the evolution. And so I wasn't wrong. I wasn't. But Jillian, you're making claims that it was going to do... Yeah? You make claims that your shit fucking works, and you're recommending all your freaking shit to your friends. Oh, get a V or don't get a V. Here, take this pill or don't take this pill. Okay, so what I'm doing ain't any different than what those have done already prior to me. Because people say shit all the time. Of course they do. But when it comes to something like immortality or curing something, well, I couldn't legally say it, but that wasn't for people to attack me for. That didn't deserve all of the ridicule and the attacks. It deserved the government to say, hey, you can't say this because of it didn't go through double-blind studies and tested in a lab as far as a universal protocol for everyone. Yeah, it may have worked for some people, but not everybody. And what is the statistics of it working? And what is the situation? What are the factors? That's why you have FDA-approved cures and protocols, because it goes through a testing process. However, what I was doing, people were getting relief, others were not, and you couldn't really measure to what statistic to warrant then me making the claims, and that was between me and the FTC. And even Facebook. But see, and then YouTube says that actually YouTube gave me a test, a survey, that if I want to get that warning off my page, I would have to take a 7-question test. And it said it asked me questions of whether or not, about how you characterize COVID, how you characterize curing, all the different things that are out there, and what you should say, what you should not say. And I think I missed one question because I didn't understand it fully. And they're like, okay, if you don't get any more marks against you in the last however many, weeks, then you can get that warning taken off of your page by January 2024. So if I don't have any medical misinformation, then I can get that. And then if I do for somehow violate something, even in a recent, whatever, then that warning will stay on until another year or something, and then I have another chance to go and get it off. And that's the conditioning process with YouTube. Facebook too. People get taken down all the time. People get put in Facebook jail all the time for what they say. Okay? That's between me and Facebook. It doesn't warrant people hating me. But again, when you are the messenger delivering a message, I'm not an architect of the society. I love men and I love women. Not love like that, but I respect both men and women. When I'm saying that eventually they're going to phase out men in the future, and they will if men don't figure out how to evolve. Okay? That's not me saying I'm doing that. It's where the system is going. They've been telling us. And people are resisting it. Sorry. All right? And so yeah, I have an allegiance to my government because my peers, many of my peers, are not very objective. And so, if anything, my government is supposed to regulate me. And so is Facebook, and so is YouTube. They're supposed to regulate me, but not my peers. My peers shouldn't even be hating me or loving me. They just should be listening to information and making their own choices. And if they support me, great. If they don't, that's fine too. And so, no, I don't deserve the hate. I don't deserve the ridicule. I don't deserve to be attacked. Nobody does. And so, again, you let the government go through their own due process. It'll go through the state, and then it'll go to the federal if you're in America. And that's why you don't regulate your peers. That's why your allegiance is to your government, not to your peers. But you can still help your peers out. People like, all the anarchists are like, yeah, okay, whatever. Yeah, you saw what happened to Acapulco, right? It got decimated, all you anarchists. Acapulco is gone. So where's the next place you guys are going to reconvene? Well, go follow Jeff Berwick. He'll let you know. All right? So then this is what pissed off this person. I looked at his Facebook account. I thought he was living in Florida. I don't know. I don't know where the hell he lives, but I think he lives. Who knows? But human survival is about balancing out the masculine and the feminine, balancing out estrogen and testosterone. That's why all the crazy diseases, because the body is aggressively trying to balance out the hormones and people resist. They're not trying to make anyone girly or boyish. What they're doing is balancing it out. I see activists on my Facebook commenting on pages of Hollywood stars that they were very feminine back in the 90s and they were under extreme programming, like Cindy Crawford. She looked very feminine and hot back in the 90s. And then now today, maybe she might look a little more masculine today. Okay. But I saw somebody on my Facebook go and comment on her and say, oh yeah, she's a man. See, that's the thing. The estrogen and the testosterone is what develops the genders, like aggressive genders, extreme genders. And that's why I had so much PMS and PMDD. I figured out now, because again, I was fucking hot in the 90s. And when I was growing up, 14, 15, and I'm at the Valley Medical Center doing a candy striper, and I was hot even as a fucking 14-year-old, all right? And these orderlies that were like in the laundry, these Mexican guys, were like, ooh, Chinita. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting all this unwanted male attention from older men. Tell my mom this, Mom, these guys say I'm really cute. She's like, well, thanks. My mother also thinks so too. She says, how do you respond to that? She says, thank you. And someone says, oh, you're so pretty. She goes, so tell them thank you. My mother also thinks so too. And that's how I responded to those who are like, oh, you're so pretty. Okay? I had a lot of aggressive estrogen. That's what makes young girls hot, is aggressive estrogen. Estrogen. And it also will cause then PMS and other diseases. Okay? That's why the men have to balance out their testosterone with some estrogen, and the women have to balance out their estrogen with the testosterone. But if you're a girly girl, and of course all the penetration, right, will develop more estrogen. Okay? And the men, the more they have to go and they look at the estrogen, and they're so testosterone, and they're, getting hard all the time and whatever, that reinforces that. And so when they bring in more estrogen, they won't get as hard as much, right? They're like, oh, here goes my manhood. So I'm saying men are having a hard time evolving because their hard-ons are what makes them who they are. If they didn't have the hard-ons and the edges, the edginess of them, then they're not men to them. That's what I'm saying. It's going to be a woman's fucking world if the men can't figure out that it's okay not to get a hard-on all the time. Or they die from their hard-ons, okay? And so I see activists commenting on pages of Hollywood stars that were very feminine back in the 90s who were under extreme estrogen programming, just like me. As the body got older, it had to balance out the hormones as they were aging, and then the women look a bit more masculine. You saw the extreme sides in women, as well as men like Steven Tyler. When you look at Steven Tyler, he looks like an old lady, right? With his hair in a bun, and he's all skinny and all that stuff. He looks like an old lady. Men and women, when they age out, they don't look that different. They really don't. Even men today, in their 50s, that are graying out and they're Caucasian, just out here, they don't look that different out here. It's like seeing a bunch of clones. It's such a trip. It's freaking a trip, okay? And so as the extreme hormonal programming wears off, both men and women in Hollywood look almost the opposite sex as they get older, or as they deteriorate. So what I'm saying has nothing to do with man hating or woman hating. That's what I'm saying. Some of the misogynists in our society will mistaken what I'm saying as me trying to destroy the man. No, if anything, I want to keep my fucking man around. But I'm trying to lessen his aggressive sexual tendencies, okay, which they are, because you can't screw me to death, and no one should be screwing anyone to death. But I want my husband, to live. But that's up to him. Okay? But that's the thing, is men are going to have to figure out how to temper that shit. And if they don't want to, yeah, you don't have to surround yourself with women, but even jacking off, you're going to lose yourself. Literally lose yourself. So I'm not hating on any man or any woman. I'm just trying to give you another way to survive this great fucking reset, because that's part of it. And they've been telling us, but we've been mischaracterizing their intentions because we don't know until you do the research and understand the role of hormones. And then me knowing what I've been through the last 40 fucking years of being such an extremely hot fucking female in the 90s, in the 2000s. Okay? And me just struggling to balance those hormones out with taking birth control pills and progesterone and all that other shit. And finally just giving up and saying, screw it, I'll just suffer with the extreme hormonal fluctuations. And that's when I was sleeping and eating and bloated and aggressive. I'd be so aggressive because then, the estrogen would melt away and there'd be the testosterone that come out. And so I would be aggressive, fighting everything, triggered by everything. Medusa. Ask anyone that ever hung out with me during those times. I didn't stay anywhere too long, because when Medusa came out, it was like I was repelling everyone around me, and that's why I would stay home when I was PMSing, because I would be just so mad. It wouldn't matter what it was. So I just stay home and stay safe, watch my movies, eat my food, and say, screw it. I don't need to compete anymore right now. I'll just lay down for a week and just check out of society for a week. And people are like, what the fuck's going on with you? Are you lazy? All right. So what I'm saying has nothing to do with man hating or woman hating. It's fucking survival. Okay. And that's why they put the man and the woman together in marriages, to see how those hormones interacted with each other on a daily basis. Yes, it was a balance of masculine and feminine. However, over time, the distribution of hormones were not as equal in each person. And that's why you had the fight and the wars and the deadly domestic violence, right? People were not balancing each other out as they were destroying each other. And then violence is from one person completely wanting to overwhelm the other. And that could be sexual violence. That could be domestic violence. That could be just extreme gender roles. And I'll tell you, and you see those in the movies, okay? Then it becomes dangerous for the women who doesn't understand what's going on. It also becomes dangerous for the man who don't understand what's going on, because then they lose control. They're so angry, or they feel entitled, right? And so it becomes dangerous for them as they are, collecting a following of people who have to go and exercise their manhood all the time. And the system will try to regulate that. That's probably what happened to some people out there who are extremely manly. The system was trying to regulate what they were doing. All right. So now the system understands the distribution of hormones and how it influences behaviors and thoughts and feelings and even roles within a family. So extremely masculine men will have a short lifespan, and extremely feminine women will also have a very short lifespan. And then you bring in lifestyle and belief system and cultures and remedies, and then boom, the perfect storm, died suddenly. And that's why you have to understand the distribution and the balancing of both those hormones. And that's why I post pictures of myself during this process, so you can see what I look like. And I don't look like a man, okay? I'm not going to age out. I'm still going to look like a little girl when you think about it, because look at my face, I got the lips, I got the eye, sometimes when I look at some of the reels that I've done, I'm like, damn, I look like I was 20 years old right there. I'm 50. Go look at other 50-year-olds out there. Or even 40-year-olds. They're losing so much life force. Okay? Or when you have a lot of weight to you, yes, you look younger. There are women that have so much weight to them, they look younger because they have all the collagen. But remember, that will also tax them. You can't have too much weight, and you can't have, too little weight. You have to have a nice, even distribution. And so that's why I post pictures of myself during my process, so you see what I look like. And I don't look like a man, though some people might disagree. But I'm not too feminine, I'm not too masculine. I'm a comfortable human being. I wear sweats. No, I don't wear thongs and G-strings and sexy bras and all that shit. No, I've never liked the thong stuff. Who wants to be pulling out underwear out of your ass every day? Who wants to have something stuck in your ass every day? Not me. It's not comfortable to me. But women who are very sexual like having something up their ass every day. And I don't understand it. But that's some women. Okay? I want to be comfortable. I like sweats. I like putting my hair in a bun. I'm not trying to be anything for anyone except someone that saves them money, helps them get to the next level in life, okay, and survive. And so if men want to survive climate change, they must soften up their testosterone, balance their hormones, bringing in the estrogen through food and release. Men will have a hard time surviving in the future. That is why it will be a woman's world. You need both estrogen and testosterone to survive. Too much on either end leads to wars. And if you're one of those who are against evolution, men, you'll sacrifice your sons and your husband and your brothers and your uncles. On the flip side, if women want to survive, they have to have more testosterone because of too much estrogen, or they'll have PMS, PMDD. That's why my issue of extreme PMS, because I was extremely female. Extremely. That is a hard pill to swallow. But again, that's where the system is going. They've done all the experiments, okay? And they want to change society. Don't get mad at the messenger. Get mad at the fact that you can't handle the information. Believe me, I didn't make this up. They've been telling us. It's reality. They've been telling us. And so one of my followers decided to completely insult me. He didn't have to attack me, but he chose to follow my information. And so why am I being punished? Because of what you choose to do. That's why the world's changing. You choose to do something, okay? You've been given warnings, you make your choices, and you go and blame someone for the choices that you make. That's humans. That's all the activists out there. Those are the resistors of our society, are the ones that make their choices and blame everyone for the choices they make. People try to warn you, and then the body tries to warn you, but people destroy the indicators of warnings, like they attack the people that warn them, like their own immune system, and then they get mad when they weren't prepared for the change. This information is not new, okay? It really isn't. I didn't make this up. But I do stay on my Facebook. I don't go on other people's pages and go and force convert them and ram my information down their throat. But I'll tell you, those that do, they have to post so many links. And that person posted so many links one time, and I just let it go because I'm like, what am I going to do? I can go and delete all of them. Oh, fine, go put your links. But that was his intention, is to go and convert and cross boundaries. That's what people do when they resist change. They will overwhelm you with their information and insult you, and then totally run counter to what you're doing to try to overwhelm you and convert you. That's an aggressive tendency in either female or male. That's what the system is trying to breed out of our society, those that do not respect people's boundaries. Okay? That was the quintessential example of what I had to deal with even back in 2017, 2018, which I shouldn't have to deal with that. But that's what we've bred in our society, are people who are destroyers on so many levels. And so I stay on my Facebook. I don't go on anyone else's Facebook because this is how I understand my process. Why I was suffering so much the last 40 years. I had way too much estrogen in my system. Way too much. And it makes you sexual as well. No different than high testosterone makes you sexual. When you balance them both out, you might have a little sexuality, not so much. You temper your aggressive sexual tendencies. Doesn't mean if you're a woman, you're going to look like a man. Or it means if you're like that, then what are you doing? If you're a woman, right? If you're born a woman or whatever, and you're taking testosterone, then yeah, you look like Chaz Bono. Okay. And if you're a woman, or if you're a man, and you want to look like a woman, then you have Bruce Jenner, or whatever his name, Caitlyn Jenner. Okay? That's what sort of shows you how aggressive these hormones can be. So then if you want to balance out both sides, you have a balance of both masculine and feminine. And if you came in this world as a man or a woman, whatever that means to people, you could still hold on to that base programming and still balance out your hormones. So again, look at me, okay? I don't look like I did back in 1994 because I was extremely fucking female in 1994. But now I have a balance of both. And I feel okay. I feel good. Okay, so you can read that article about having too much testosterone, whatever, right? But there are symptoms that go along with unbalanced hormones. And so I said then, penis equals vaccine equals sexuality equals crowds of people. Payload, semen from penis, liquid from vaccine, spittle is the data, information processing. Direct inject equals offspring, evolution, disease, kids, fertility. Population decline or incline based upon how aggressive the fertility process is when people cannot stay away from others. Boomers incline, Gen X buster, baby buster decline, 2050 infertility when they finally release the demons and they balance out the masculine and feminine, and they figure out that those that are too much on either end will die off and those that have relative equilibrium will stick around. Okay? That's why there'll be infertility by 2050, because they don't need you to be farm animals anymore. All right? It's a freedom. We're setting women free from being broad mares. We're setting men free from having to go screw everything. And you can still be a man, whatever that is. Doesn't mean that you have to go screw everything, but you can still be a man. Read stuff, go chop wood, and you can still live indefinitely. All right? So will you survive your own beliefs? And will your kids survive? And men are being phased out. Too much testosterone unless they soften up with some estrogen, if they're allowed to. And I said some of us are afraid of reptilians, but you exemplify the extreme side of reptilian brain, baser level instincts, extreme sexuality. So then you can think about what the reptilians back in the Sumerian pantheon. They were the men's men, right? And then you saw the giants, the Canaanites, the giants, and they were men's men, Goliath. And then you had the reptilian brain, and you had the reptilians way back when. I guess if they exist, I don't know. I haven't seen any, but there are statues of the Sumerian pantheon, and their statues look like a reptile. And you see people talk about reptilians, and you have the reptilian brain, the extreme sexuality. Okay? And so what does having a reptilian brain mean? The reptilian brain composed of the basal ganglia striatum and brainstem involved with primitive drives. So like the MMA, the porn industry, that's reptilian, okay? My husband watches MMA all the time. My husband, he even says to me a couple of years ago, when we were talking about that, when David Icke was talking about the reptilian, reptilians and stuff. I was like, I think I'm a reptilian, because he knows how manly he is. He knows. He knows. My husband knows. My husband's fucking smart. He's so smart, okay? And so the reptilian brain, composed of base ganglia, striatum, and brainstem, is involved with primitive drives related to thirst, hunger, sexuality, and territoriality, as well as habits and procedural memory, like putting your keys in the same place every day without thinking about it, or riding a bike. So there's obviously upsides to having the reptilian brain, but you can temper some of the extreme sides of the human farming. Where do you think humans figured out how to procreate? It wasn't just like one day you decided, it wasn't like instinct. You had to be taught this. Someone had to teach you this. The reptilians way back when, back in the Sumerian pantheon, right? That turned them into ogres and Goliath. And so then you got to think about then hanging out with people who are doing all the remedies that may have diabetes, right? And so when you take on somebody else's programming, whatever it is, and then you don't release those demons, and there's so much diversity hanging out inside your body, yeah, you might be taking on somebody's programming that has shut off their insulin production. So then that's how even diabetes can be passed not even from generation to generation, but also in the population. All the conditions have to be right for you to catch diabetes from somebody, but how would you even know, right? There's no way to make correlation equals causation. But there are hydra, microbes, tardigrades. They're so diverse. And then you see the programming of people when they are diabetic. They don't have the sugar regulators. They don't have the insulin. Well, why not? Because something turned off their production. And they're starving because they can't handle, of course they can't handle the sugar because they don't have enough insulin to go and regulate it. Because they have the diversity in their body that is like chaotic children stealing copper wire in the community or taking those things underneath the cars and they're selling them. I forget what you call them. That's a problem in our community. Or they're just stealing cars, or they're shutting off hormones, or flooding out lawns, or putting the flags on the mailboxes off. We did that. Oh my God, as kids, we were dumb as kids. I think we were following a mailman, and we were doing that. He said, "You shouldn't do that. You shouldn't put those flags up because that tells me there's mail in there. You're making my work harder." We're like, "Oh, we're sorry." He was nice to us. He could have said, "You stupid kids." But we were not very smart as kids playing around like that. We were just doing stupid shit. Okay? But that's why you have disease, because you have chaotic children that are shutting off your hormones. Shutting off your hormones or turn them on way high, and then you have overproduction. All right, so programmed anti-insulin hydra need to be released, but the person has disabled their ability to release the demons, therefore compounding the issue with insulin drugs or taking insulin, further accelerating the growth of anti-insulin demons because resistance is futile. Programmed anti-fat regulatory hydra stuck in the person's immune system from all the remedies cause a person to slowly starve themselves to death when they get to that desired weight. Okay? And so what they do is they starve themselves. Because what else they can do? If they don't know how to regulate their own hormones by releasing the demons, then they're going to stay away from food and starve themselves until that train runs away from them. And so the aging process then is accelerated. I see it right now in girls. They're like last year, they're like, "Look at me, I'm so hot." Because they got skinny. They lost weight. Maybe they were bigger and they lost weight because the environment is so aggressive. And so they're posting pictures of how hot they look. Then today they post pictures again. I'm studying their face, and I see the wrinkles. I see the skin is very thin, and it's like wrapped, or not wrapped, but it's tight around the cheeks, like really tight. There you don't see too much collagen. And now I see the aging process is accelerated. But they look hot for that minute. That's what these girls who are losing weight in this environment, they're like, "This is so great." It's like, oh my gosh. Yeah, that's called the aging process accelerated. But in a slower frequency environment, when you didn't have the regulation of the metabolism, then you were gaining weight because there wasn't that balance of hormones to regulate. No, you shouldn't be doing exercises. Okay, but like, oh, they weren't doing exercises, they were lazy. No, it was the distribution of hormones and other things were going on in their body that caused them the weight gain. And then in this environment, they have switched everything to do the opposite. Now they're losing so much weight and they're aging aggressively. It's accelerating. And so I said thinner, right? Or what did I say? They're deteriorating and afraid to eat food in fear of weight gain, and Thinner by Richard Bachman. The voluntary starvation process via chemistry, economics, and biology. Now, when you exchange Hydra full of information, that's called a virus or vital information resource under siege, and then infection, birth, cancer, and disease. Now look at all the people in a highly aggressive environment breathing in all the Hydra, aerosolized Hydra viruses hanging out together in the close quarters, incubating disease and not releasing demons properly, blaming the V's. But look at the ball games and the restaurants and concerts. Really? Okay, people are like, "Oh, I'm not changing, I'm not wearing a mask," which I completely understand. Okay, I don't wear a mask either. But they're blaming the V's for all the diversity in the population, all the diet suddenlies and all the disease. And they're also taking in microbes when they're going into crowded rooms, into crowded restaurants. And I remember when I first ventured out after being home for like 2.5, 3 years, and I'm going into a crowded restaurant, and I'm feeling like I'm on vertigo. I'm like feeling high as a kite. You know why? Because it was then all of that microbes that came in a high energy environment caused in all the replication and the hormone release, and I was feeling dizzy. And I was blow my nose. Yeah, if I didn't have that, and I kept going out and I didn't feel anything, and I would be getting bigger and bigger or skinnier and skinnier. But the fact that I feel what I feel when I did, even back then, showed that my immune system was working for me. And when I went outside with my husband for the hour or so picking up leaves, it felt great, it felt great. And I come inside the house and I'm tired and I eat, my little blizzard that I got from Dairy Queen the other day, and I had the hamburger and the fries, but I didn't eat the blizzard. But I took it out of the refrigerator or freezer, ate it, and I just knocked out for the few hours. That was Saturday, I think. Or no, was that Sunday? No, it was Sunday. Yeah, it was Sunday. Because I knew that I knew when I cooked the food on Saturday, I would be doing something on Sunday. Either clean the attic or do the leaves. Well, I guess you decided to do the leaves. But I was knocked out, and I was fine. And then I had hives a little bit yesterday in the afternoon, but I was speaking for 3 hours and 50 minutes. Holy shit. And I was on a roll. I just kept going. It was like I couldn't stop. I wasn't even exhausted. I just kept, right now, it's the energy. It's only 9:10 right now. Okay? So, but I had a few hives. Then when I was done, I had food, and then there's a few hives, and the hives gone, and I blew my nose this morning, and here you go. And so my immune system can release the demons. And I could go out. I mean, I don't go out very often. I really don't. I don't want to get caught in the crossfire of somebody, losing it. But yeah, when you're around so many people now in a highly aggressive environment, I'll tell you, you will gain a lot of replication. For me, I will gain the substance and the weight because of the replication, and then I'll have to blow my nose the next morning and release the demons. But again, hanging out with people now with an activated immune system like mine it's a lot of work. That's why you then value the peace and quiet of home. That's why I like staying home and staying safe. It's peaceful. And so I said, Evelyn Sauce. She's pretty cool. So I said this. I'll read both the comments from John and Evelyn. I saw her comment, but I didn't go and look at it right immediately because I knew she's a pretty chill person. She won't say anything too inflammatory. So I trusted her comment. I trust John and Audrey's comment and Pip and whatever. But when I see people come through, I'm like, oh my God, let me see what they say. But no, Evelyn, she's a good lady. I like her. All right. And so if you equate to what I am doing as a business, I would have saved the company millions of dollars. I have saved my husband thousands of dollars in health insurance, food, addictions, and social interactions. I am not a drain on my hubby or my society or anyone else for that matter. Yes, business process reengineering must be applied to streamline all business processes. It is not about making more money. It is optimizing what you already have and save your family and company money without being a drain on your society, family, and yourself. Greed equals waste. And that's what I impressed by my husband, because he likes having so much. He wants everything. My husband is a 1980s male, okay, born in the 1970s, but he was raised in the 80s. Bigger is better. Supersize it. Get as much as you can in a short amount of time. Keep trying to advance. Always upgrade. It's exhausting. It's fucking exhausting. And so when he's like, well, why don't you work, Jillian? So we can afford all this stuff. And I'm like, I don't want all that shit. You know how I'm going to work for you? And I'm going to tell you how I'm going to work for you. I'm going to save your ass fucking money. I'm not going to spend shit. I'm going to go and optimize my body and reprocess my body so that way it doesn't need as much. So that way you can spend it on whatever you can afford. If you want that bass boat, you got to pay for it. If you want your CB radio stuff, you got to pay for it. I'm not working for all your hobbies. I don't have a bunch of friends and people to hang out with. I don't need to. I don't have major hobbies out there. I don't have addictions to support. I don't have all that stuff out there that requires massive amounts of capital. You know how I'm contributing to this family? By making sure that I'm keeping the accounting straight and I'm not spending ourselves out of existence, and I'm helping you figure out how to streamline. how to scale down so you're not a slave even to your own fucking addictions. So there's ways of which you can actually leverage your position in a marriage and in a relationship and in any kind of business situation. But when you always have to keep acquiring so much, where you're so greedy, then there's waste. And then who are you working for? You're not working for yourself. You're being used as a slave when you're trying to support somebody else's lifestyle and addictions. And if you have addictions, then you have no room. But if you have no addictions, you don't have a huge friend base to go and support. You don't have, health issues to deal with. And you're not a consumerist. You have just leveraged your position. You have just made yourself worthwhile. Because again, every Republican out there is like, you work for what you want, right? I'm working for what I want. He's working for what he wants. But I'm not working for what you want. I'm working for what we both want. But you don't want anyone to enslave you because they want more, 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 more. And that's what a lot of relationships do. Both have to work because they both have so much to support. And people work themselves to fucking death. They work themselves to death. They work their husbands to death. They work their wives to death. And they even work their children to death. Why would you want to enslave the people that you claim to respect? Why wouldn't you give them a cushion so they don't have to work themselves to death? And so greed equals waste. The more you make, the more you spend. See, if I were to work right now, then you have to spend money on a car and insurance, right? And then having to buy the clothes. And then whatever money I bring in might pay one or two bills or maybe more. Or then it would give the other person license to spend more. Oh, because now that you're working, I can spend more money. That's where people get caught up in the trappings of wealth and greed. And I ain't that. I'll suffer and hardly do anything and not even suffering. But I have conditioned myself not to need so much. I don't have any health issues. I don't have any of that stuff. And when I was buying all those supplements and things like that way back when, he was making a lot of money back then. And even when he wasn't and I was buying that stuff, I was working at the time. And even with the J World, I had a little bit of money to go and support whatever I was doing. But now I've scaled down to almost nothing. I've scaled down to just my brain, my computer, food, shelter, basic shit. And I'm free. I've set myself free. So the more you make, the more you spend. So downsize your expectations and consumerism, or be equated as a useless eater, and you enslave others to support your addictions and wasteful spending. And so John says, me too. We don't need anything in forms of handouts. We don't use the doctors or their medicines. It's a peaceful place to be. It's funny, the ones that are at war with the government are the ones mostly needing handouts and their therapies and their drugs. Hypocrites biting the hand that feeds them. Oh yeah. The irony does not escape me either. And then he says greed plus waste equals consumerism. Absolutely. And then Evelyn goes, so very true. And contentment, even joy at the thought of what you're not spending, is a plus. Yeah, I thought the best times when I had no money. That was the best time when my husband and I were so poor, living in that hotel, and we had no other people around us, and we were except for the whores and the prostitutes and the drug addicts and the con artists. But aside from that, we were able to drive around and maybe occasionally go get a sushi, or then get the dollar menu and the Little Caesars. And even go into the river and go hang out by the river and sit by the river. And we didn't have a boat or anything like that. It was just so nice. It was so simple. It was the simple times that I enjoy the most. Now it's like, oh gosh, now we have shit. Now it's like, okay, how do you now increase more shit? And okay, it's fine, it's great for him, but I like the simple times when you had no money, right? And so Evelyn goes, so very true, and contentment, even joy at the thought of what you're not spending, is a plus. Okay, except for art supplies and books. When I was a kid, I used to wish I'd accidentally get locked in a library overnight. And so That's pretty awesome. Because I'll tell you, once in a while to go travel, okay, you say, so maybe once a year or once every couple of years. I mean, I traveled, we're in 2023? Well, I didn't travel last year, but I traveled back in 2019 was the last time I traveled. I haven't traveled really anywhere. Oh no, I traveled with my husband to West Virginia. Okay, so once every couple of years, I'll go somewhere different. Not all, but this time, I don't know if I want to go too far. But I've done a lot of traveling, okay? And so staying close to home, and then when I go to like a Dunkin' Donuts or a Starbucks or a Walmart or any store, it's like a treat. It's like wow. It's like you reset the expectations, so you actually enjoy the little things in life. And so then I put, life, L-I-E, and then F-E, live, because that could be a lie. What is life? Life could be a lie to people. What is life? It's all relative to what you think life means and how long it should be and all this other stuff. And then death is eat, right? D-E-A-T, because people can eat others out of existence. They can eat themselves out of existence. And so death is D-E-A-T, and then H. Well, I put D. That's okay. But death is eat. What are you eating out of existence? And then evolution or evolution, that could be evil to some people because they don't want to deal with change. It's painful. So all concepts and perception, right? So, so you develop the meaning. And then I said, ate, right? H and then A-T-E equals someone eating their info and them and shitting it out, shitting on other people, right? That's hate. That's what happened today. Someone really hated on me today, and they ate my information and they shit all over me. They waterfalled all over me. And I'm like, oh, fuck. All right. Love equals fornicating with everyone and developing offspring. When everyone's like, oh, I love you. I love you. Yeah, they're taking in all the information and they're having sex with everyone virtually, emotionally, even physically out there. And then they're developing offspring. And so when you hear people like, oh, I love you. Oh, I love you. Yeah, I don't really want to have sex with you. I'm not trying to have a baby with you here. But that's really where most humans go right now. When they're all about love, it's about fornicating with everybody in body, mind, and spirit, and then developing offspring, right? Their relationship is the offspring of all that love. And then they reinforce that. They keep doing all the same things together, hang out together all the time, constantly reinforcing that microbial fornication. And they age each other out. They cannibalize each other. That's what love is. It's cannibalizing each other. Okay? And so, that's the family who were once strangers and became familiar. Right? So when you have people who are familiar, right, they're pretending they're family because they're cordial, they're interacting. Not that they know each other that well, but now they are becoming to be, full of that friendship, the ship of friend that may even pass silently in the night. And they were once strangers and they became familiar. Do you really love that stranger and your friends, or do you get off on the pleasure of being lied to via family, or are you getting high off their proteins, feeding off their energy, their body, their mind, and their spirit? And the truth is brutal. And so, staying home and staying safe, or be caught up in the public-private fornication with everyone in your community. And now, when you walk into a crowd, that's what goes on. Microbial fornication. It's very scientific, extremely. That's why they recommended the masks back when the climate changed so aggressively. That's why they enforced it, because they know that much growth during climate change, people could die suddenly. Absolutely. Oh, I get it now. But if you can, for me, I can handle the aggressive reproduction. It's uncomfortable. I feel like big as a house and I look like I'm a chipmunk. But that's part of the immune system. That's immune system activation. That's not being cured. That's allowing the death and reproduction. Why is it called death? Because you will release those. It's not really death, but you're releasing them, and where they're going to go, who knows? They may not survive the release process, but that's not your problem. They're at the microbe. Okay? And so I say, stay home and stay safe, or be caught up in the public-private fornication with everyone in your community. The aging process from all the offspring, microbes, cancer, infection, children from the public-private fornication between your nose, mouth, anus, and vagina in a closed immune system, using remedies to disable the purpose of your immune system to release the demons. That's why I posted Steve Carell the other guy from The Office, because they are that The Office is definitely like a business type of fornication of exchanging ideas and developing a process of putting things together and developing a product. Your children are products of a business process, and so are businesses. They offer a product of goods and services. Okay? And so everything is connected. And then I said, oh yeah, this is what's going to piss people off, but whatever. Okay, but 9/11 is representative of extremist suicide bombers like the kamikaze pilots in World War II, trying to destroy Western imperialism, greed, and slavery. Okay, no different than those in the remedies world suiciding themselves with drugs and remedies and addictions, taking everyone around them down with the ship. Okay, all the players in 9/11 are allegorically, historically, and culturally correct to what is going on today in your politics, religions, and science extremism. And so if you really think about it, those that believe they should die someday, they are the Muhammad Attas if you are in activism. Okay? Religion and politics and spirituality, and you're willing to die for your beliefs. When you choose to die for your family, that is no different than what happened in 9/11. He chose to die. Those guys that went and did what they did, whether it was a hologram or it was an actuality, no matter what, even that story was showing you people were willing to die for their belief systems and take down everyone around them with them. Okay, so now you look at, so what's going on with Muhammad Atta and those guys in that plane, the 2 planes, I think, wasn't it? Shit, yeah. All right? They not only sacrificed themselves, but they sacrificed those that they were against. The imperialist capitalists, the ones who are making money off of other people, the enslavers. So then you look at your community and people are willing to die for their beliefs, taking all their remedies and their surgeries and all of their intolerances, and they are eliciting a following of people who are willing to do the same thing. But they're being given a choice. Yeah, Muhammad Atta and those guys in that plane didn't give anyone in those 2 towers a choice. But that was allegory to show you what it means to be an extremist, dying for your beliefs. That's religion. That's why Israel is dealing with this bullshit, because there are people willing to die for their beliefs and take people down with them, even their own people. Hamas is willing to sacrifice the Palestinians for their beliefs. That's what's going on in the Middle East. Okay? And so when you choose to die for your family, that's no different than what happened in 9/11. You choose to die for anything, or for other people, or religion, or politics, or science. You're no different than those who committed the 9/11. Chew on that when you're blaming everyone for your problems. You chose to die, and yet you're resentful. That's why I left most of people out there. I will not be your savior or your Satan. And people make me out to be that way because they don't realize that, yeah, what you accuse of others, that's Narcissus and Pandora. What you accuse of others is what you are actually doing. And that's the mirror. That's the mirror that people resent to look at. And so, yeah. So that's why what happened with me in the J world and what's going on in the Middle East and then what's going on now with the future, it's all connected. Everything is connected. But you had to watch somebody who is not well off. I'm not rich. I'm not a licensed professional in anything. But you had to see what I went through and then how I came to these conclusions organically. It wasn't fed to me by some Illuminati person. All of you are mirrors. All of you have given me all this information just by what you do, what you say, what you feel, what you post on Facebook, your belief systems, your lifestyle, your religions. All of you have contributed to this evolution. All of you have. Okay? And when you have a clear head and you don't have too much diversity in your body, you can make those connections and it would make sense. Everything would be connected. The whole fifth industrial revolution, I didn't even think that actually would correspond to the 5 sets of 3 generations that were transitioning from one turning to another. When you look at from way back to 1776, at least with America. That's what I use as a benchmark was America. Because Europe, they have so many thousands of years of history, but America has 247 years of history. What were they doing in that 247 years? What was the formula? And so when you work with small numbers, it makes it easier to then understand the bigger picture. And America was just small numbers. It was 15 generations. No, yeah. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. 15 generations of people gave us the evolution that we are here today. 15 generations. All right? And so now that you see that that's the past and that's where the future is going, don't shoot the messenger. Don't be mad at the messenger. Just listen to indicators and make your choices. And if you're mad at anyone that tells you what's going on, then you're resisting. And okay, that's your choice to resist. If you're mad at me, then don't follow me. Shit. You're mad at anyone. Don't follow them. The government is not going into your house and forcing you to do anything. Do what the hell you want to do. But if your kids don't survive because of you're not changing the way you do things, you were told, and you didn't want to change, now your kids are not alive anymore. Or you're not alive anymore. Or your wife's not alive anymore. But you had the choice to change and you chose not to, okay. You can still do what you do, but scale it down so you can survive. And know how to balance out the life in your body. And know what causes reproduction. Yeah, groups of people and remedies. You need food and you need to release. And you have to pay back the sins of the father. And you have a lot of residual programming from the last how many years that your genetic line has been around and whatever you've done the last 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 years. Some people are too far gone. They can't do it. Some can. Some can take the time. Others can't. Others are too far gone. Then don't listen to me. All right, that's all I'm going to say. I'm going to take a break. I don't want to take a break, but yeah, I mean, yeah. But you get it, I think. All right, good luck. Bye.